We're talking today about the flip, not just turning the other cheek, but flipping the script, the leverage, the entire racist situation. This is about moving from invisibility to competence, from fear to agency, using something far more effective than shouting: documentation and dignity. I've watched a quiet courtroom fall silent, a boarding gate still, and a $500 million contract pause because one person, who was meant to be dismissed, calmly cited the rule that proved the dismissal was illegal. Want to see how justice happens? Not just indignation, but real documented accountability, firings, policy rewrites, contracts withdrawn. The key is realizing your calm, documented truth carries more weight than their loud defensive ego. Here's the scene: a bank lobby holding its breath on the polished, hushed floor where commercial real estate financing negotiations happen. A huge acquisition, $500 million, riding on a complex, structured deal. Aisha is 32, black, sharp, and the CFO and principal negotiator for the acquiring firm. She prefers the quiet power of knowing the numbers cold. Across the mahogany table sits Gary, mid-level relationship director for the bank, clearly annoyed. He assumes Aisha is the note-taker. He directs all complex debt covenant questions only to the middle-aged white men flanking her, avoiding her eyes. When Aisha smoothly clarifies a point on escrow allocation the legal team missed, Gary gives her the condescending nod reserved for precocious children. "That's good input, sweetie," he smiles, fake and brittle. "But let's stick to the high-level decision points. Are you tracking the changes for your boss?" The common mistake is arguing feelings, explaining why sweetie is racist, sexist, and degrading. You burn energy, lose composure, and they win by forcing you into an emotional defense. Gary wants indignation, so he can say you're too sensitive and derail the meeting. Forget shouting. Try this. Gary's insult wasn't just personal, it was a breach of his professional duty. It demonstrated bias that legally compromises his ability to provide sound, neutral fiduciary advice for the deal. That is the vulnerability. Aisha takes a slow breath. Her eyes stay steady, intensely clear. She ignores the insult entirely. She slides the legal pad away and leans forward. "Gary," she says, voice low and absolutely level. The room pauses. "We're discussing the Tranche C prepayment penalties. Before we proceed, I need to understand why you have yet to provide the bank's internal justification memorandum for the basis risk swap premium, specifically referencing the MC 402.1b directive. MC 402.1b directive. That specific code is real, or sounds so precise that Gary's blood pressure spikes. It's an internal compliance directive for institutional clients that he, the relationship director, is legally required to know. By calling her sweetie, he assumed she wouldn't know the deep-level compliance numbers. Now he's caught. He hasn't done the homework. She didn't argue ego. She cited policy. Policy beats ego every single time. Gary tries to bluster. "I don't appreciate the tone, ma'am. That detail is usually handled by junior staff. We can circle back." This is the second critical moment. He tries to push her back into the junior staff box. Aisha was ready. "I understand that," Aisha replies, her voice still calm, almost boringly factual. "However, I am the signatory principal for the acquiring entity, and that directive requires full disclosure of the premium justification before escrow close. Given that you haven't provided it, and given your demonstrated lack of professional due diligence regarding my role, I am activating the escalation clause outlined in the Framework Agreement, Section 7.4. That clause requires the immediate intervention of the bank's chief compliance officer and the removal of any representative whose bias or lack of expertise creates a material risk to the deal's legal standing. The room goes silent. Aisha just pulled the plug. Gary, sweating, finally has to look at her. Look, I'm sure we can resolve this internally, he attempts, scrambling to save the commission. But I need to speak to your principal immediately. Aisha nods slowly. She pulls a business card from her holder and slides it across the table. You're speaking to her now, Aisha says. The card lists her title, CFO on principal. The situation is no longer a personal feud. It's a material financial risk. The bias that cost 1B loan, or, here, jeopardized a $500 deal because Gary prioritized prejudice over fiduciary duty. This entire sequence is about evidence and leverage. Aisha's refusal to engage emotionally allowed her to focus on the policy argument, which is quantifiable and carries legal weight. She turned his prejudice into a violation of corporate procedure. Within the hour, the bank's chief compliance officer, CCO, and the head of commercial lending, Denise, were in the room. Gary was summarily escorted out, his access badge deactivated. The CCO apologized, acknowledging Gary's behavior was a direct violation of policy. Aisha had created leverage. Because the deal was so huge, she demanded two specific systemic fixes. First, mandatory, auditable implicit bias training for all relationship managers tied directly to client retention metrics. And second, that all future communications regarding her account be handled directly by Denise, bypassing the management layer Gary represented. That's justice. Systemic fixes. It moved from abuse to accountability, from invisibility to undeniable professional competence. The best justice tool has no shouting. It relies on 3 calm steps. 1 loud result. This is the power of being ready. You can't control the bias, but you absolutely control your response and your documentation. The 10-minute justice prep before high-stakes environments. Take 10 minutes to prepare your defenses, informational leverage, and emotional insulation. 1. Centered breath and posture, 3 minutes. Find a quiet spot, sit or stand tall. Breathe deeply, grounding yourself. Focus, less panic, more proof, more power. You are present and prepared. 2. Policy arsenal ready, 2 minutes. Open your Notes app. Have a shortcut to the key policies you might need. Airport? Know the FAA non-discrimination rules. Workplace? Know the HR reporting policy number. Bank? Know the compliance hotline or the specific regulatory requirement, like MC 402.1b. This is your sword and shield. 3. Neutral phrase. Prep. 1 minute. Preload a non-emotional, policy-driven phrase. This sentence stops the room without inviting a debate about your feelings. Example 1. Service denial. I need the name and badge number of your supervisor and a written copy of the policy that specifically justifies this refusal. Example 2. Workplace bias. I am formally documenting this interaction and requesting a meeting with HR to review Policy 304 regarding professional conduct. Example 3. Authority challenge. I will only continue this conversation in the presence of a chief compliance officer per our firm's escalation protocol. Practice saying this in a low, steady voice. No inflection, just fact. 4. Activate witness mode. In 4 minutes. You are now a responsible reporter of the facts. Documentation. Be ready to record audio-video, check local laws, or take detailed notes immediately. Note the time, date, specific location, and the name title on the badge. Their official identity is your best evidence. Identify allies. Scan the room. Who looks uncomfortable? If possible, make eye contact, establishing a subtle connection. Allies change outcomes. Adjust expectations. You are gathering the proof that ends the excuse, seeking leverage and eventual justice, not immediate emotional satisfaction. This 10-minute ritual dramatically increases your safety, clarity, and leverage. It gives you the specific tools Aisha used to turn personal humiliation into massive corporate accountability. It shifts you from defense to active evidence gathering. Always prioritize safety. Avoid physical confrontation. Document and escalate through proper channels. What Aisha demonstrated was the highest form of competence, the mastery of her business and the policies that govern the system attempting to sideline her. Big deal, bigger dignity. You have the power to stop the script. Choose to carry dignity like armor and policy like a precise instrument. Today, choose one thing. Save the number for your company's ethics hotline. Set up a shortcut for a key policy document. Or choose one single neutral phrase, the sentence that stops the room, and practice saying it in that low, steady voice. We build this power together.